Hey everyone, I wanted to recognize our sponsor, Traver Connect. Two words ring true for all of us in the automotive service space: the phones. When we hear those words, we instantly all sigh. Because as much change as our industry has seen, we still get an overwhelming amount of calls. No need to sigh though. That's where a good BDC comes in handy, doesn't it? I know the team at Traver Connect personally, and these guys get it, and they can help you build your service BDC. Or you can use their team to catch the calls you miss from well-trained team of agents that they have. Or have them make outbound calls and set new appointments. Give Traver Connect a call today. As they say, revenue doesn't leave a message at the beep. Reach out to the team at Traver Connect at traverconnect.com. Dynatron Software is also an important sponsor for the Fixed Ops Mastermind podcast. As both technology and the auto industry continue to evolve, every dealership needs to ask themselves a very important question. Am I in the forefront or stuck in the past? Dynatron Software offers the latest in data analytics, business tools, and pricing optimization. Contact them for more info. Sales at DynatronSoftware.com. Guys, as always, help spread the message of the Fixed Ops Mastermind podcast. Rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. That helps us to spread the word. Also, make sure to subscribe to the podcast on your favorite podcast app. Get the new episodes as soon as they're released. And now, here's another episode for you. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Fixed Ops Mastermind podcast. Today, we are excited to have with us Joseph Clementi, who is the National Director of Service Operations at Mobility Works. Joseph is a NADA Dealer Academy graduate, 3-time Honda President's Award winner, the 10th annual Bill Streng Business of the Year in 2005, Best Auto Dealer for 13 consecutive years, a Heartfelt Customer Care Award winner, a 2011 Service Excellence Award winner. We are proud to have Joe here with us today, and he is going to share some tips on his success and tell us how he got there.
It's Joe Clementi. I am the National Director of Service Operations for Mobility Works. We're a national chain of wheelchair-accessible van providers, serving the disabled community with wheelchair-accessible vans, full-size vans and lifts, and commercial fleet vehicles for those clients in wheelchairs.
Very cool. It is probably an industry that a lot of people don't realize exists separate from from dealerships and things. I think they most people, if they're not affected by it, probably just assume that those vehicles are just ordered at a dealership and that's how people buy them. But certainly that's not the case. Why don't you give us a little bit of background on how you wound up in this position, and and maybe a little background on how those vans actually do come to be.
Oh, thank you very much. It's a great opportunity to talk a little bit about what we do. My background is in the automotive world. I spent nearly 30 years in the dealership world in many different roles, primarily as a general manager with a fixed operations mindset. Was fortunate to connect with Mobility Works, as I mentioned earlier, one of the national companies, the leading national provider of wheelchair-accessible vans and adaptive equipment. Most people do think that it is one of those elements that just happens, but we do adaptive equipment, including driving controls, hand controls, any kind of adaptive equipment for those clients that have a need. And we really do serve to change the quality of their lives. It's pretty fascinating. We have manufacturers that build those wheelchair adaptable vehicles, and they provide them to us as sort of a pool. And then, of course, we end up being the end user that provides them solutions to our clients.
Excellent. And how are you typically connected to those clients? How do they actually find you and order a van?
Yeah, it's really interesting. Some of the studies that we found is that many of our customers are first-time van buyers, first-time mobility buyers. They do a lot of research online. I think the last study we showed had nearly 3 years before a client actually made a decision to expand the quality of their life, right? To get their freedom back, to be able to enjoy the things you and I take for granted. So when they do their research, they traditionally find us online or perhaps through social media or a friend or referral, right? Most similar to the automotive environment, but we specialize in that community and we're experts in that community. And that really what separates us from the vast majority.
Yeah, absolutely. It's certainly a field where I would assume that that being an expert is extremely important. So you are the national director of service operations. Are there service centers for just these vans?
Yeah, much like you would think about the automotive environment, we have 92 service locations across the country in 32 states. So we do service those adaptive vehicles in every facet, from the operational maintenance of the van and the deployment of the ramp systems to all kinds of repairs for mechanical issues, safety related issues, and of course, any maintenance related issues. Very similar to the automotive environment, except for our specialty is in the adaptive world.
Absolutely. And so, Joe, I assume that you're running teams around the country. What do you feel is a driver for the motivation to keep the motivation going for your teams? How do you keep that morale up?
Yeah, I think it comes down to fantastic leadership and having a very clearly defined why, right? And our why is giving our clients back the quality of their life. And for all of us, it really drives us. We have an impact that actually improves someone's life. Yeah, I often get asked, what do you do? And I say we change people's lives because we really do. We help them gain the freedom and mobility to be able to do what you and I do every day that we may take for granted. So for our teams, it's really about having a very clear defined why, and that's really what motivates our team to do what they do. We have a fantastic group of people that is very, very centered on the client, and I think that's what makes us unique. It's less about revenue and less about hours and more about serving the client as a leading cause to great leadership, right? And I think that's one of the topics we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about.
Yeah, and Joe, that's I mean, that those last couple of sentences that you said there are something that could probably benefit 99% of the dealerships across the country, right? Is if you focus less on hours and revenue and focus more on your customer, it all kind of comes together, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we use some of the redundancies that are no longer specific today, and they just they don't apply anymore. So when we talk to ourselves and our teams about what it takes to make a difference in someone's life, it's about that quality of service. The end result, as you mentioned, is hours and billings, but the primary focus is on the client. So we change our approach. We talk a lot about that why and that mission, and that's what really provides that exceptional level of leadership and support for our customers.
Yeah, I think there's too much focus these days from that's old thinking, let's call it that, and too much thinking about actually making a profit. Obviously, very important. These dealerships cost millions and millions of dollars, and it takes a lot of money to keep them running. But in the end, if we don't have customers, it really doesn't matter if you're doing $100,000 per RO, right? Because you don't have any customers to do that. So
right, and as service-minded people, our primary focus is our client. The revenue is the end result of it. We often talk about in our leadership circle, we talk about the activities that produce the end result, revenue and hours. And we talk about how important it is to stay focused on that client And all those things collectively come together. You brought up a point, and you said we lose focus, right? Because dealerships cost so much to run and operate. And I'm reminded of a quote that Simon Sinek said, and he said something to the effect, and I might botch this, so it's not exact, but he said, we need to reimagine business as it exists and reject the finite methods of the 80s and the 90s and the early 2000s and embrace the infinite mindset for the next millennium. To me, that means we need to adjust. We need to create an environment where our teams are growing and expanding and really becoming better service-minded folks.
Yeah, I would totally agree, and I would say that in fixed operations for a lot of the people who are the boots on the ground, if you will, in the fixed ops departments, we have realized for a long time that if you focus on the customer, that the revenue follows that it doesn't go the other way. You don't start taking a department and making it make a lot of money and then get a lot of customers.
Right.
You take care of the customers and then you start making more revenue. I think I'm probably one of the more outspoken people on LinkedIn when it comes to changing your thinking and not thinking in the past and always being prepared to change. I love hearing that you're taking your teams down that path. I don't know the exact quote from Simon Sinek. I know the quote you're talking about, so I can't clarify on that. But that is exactly what what we need to do. We need to open our minds and expand past what too often we're looking down that shop with those blinders on, right? Like they put on the horses.
Right.
And we can't see past the nose on our face and realize what customers want. Obviously for you, it's a quality of life issue. And for many of the customers in the dealerships, it's their time, right? Which affects their quality of life. And too often the dealerships have gone over and above putting in these massive dealerships with these crazy massage chairs and ice cream parlors and everything else. And the customer has no interest in spending more time with us. That's not what they want. They want less time there.
Yeah, I think the latest NEDA study said something to the effect 71% of customers said, I just want you to value my time. That's my main priority. Value my time, right? And so when you have an environment where I'm having to spend more time at your facility, that's not really what I want. And as not in the dealership world anymore, I don't want to take my brand new car to the dealership and wait, right? I'd rather get the service done effectively, get it turned over, and I'm on my way. So that's an evolution. That's part of what we're talking about. And, for me, when we talk about, and I know we were going to speak a little bit about leadership, but I think that it has perfect tie-in, right? Because in my mind, creative, forward-thinking professionals, they are the catalyst to close this gap, right?
Yes.
When we talk about developing and training and coaching and evolving our teams, they just must be better leaders. I read something the other day that said something to the effect that we do such a lousy job as managers actually acknowledging our team in public, praising them, finding something that they did well. And yet when we do that, the studies show that we're 30 to 40% more productive. Isn't that fascinating? We get more people involved in the process when we become better leaders. And Dave, I think I do a lot of coaching on the side, and I talk to dealers often, and more times than not, they're just missing that leadership skill that helps bring a team cohesively together.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And too often the leadership position is not looked at as that, right? I mean, you look at pro sports, and pro sports, they have a losing season. They don't fire the team, they fire the coach, right? But But
Right.
a lot of times that's not what happens at the dealerships, right? We look to a poor season, a poor quarter, and they start looking at which technicians didn't do a good job, which advisors didn't do a good job, and not often enough we're not looking at the leaders themselves. And I'm not saying that they're poor leaders, but most times they are very undertrained leaders,
Yeah.
and they have just not
Yes.
ever been given the tools to lead properly.
We think managing is leading, right?
Right.
I mean, and in the end, we think I'm now a manager, so I'm leading. And the reality is, leading is very, very different than managing, right? And we put professionals that are skilled, very talented people in a position of leadership, but we don't reinforce that learning skill. And to your point, that's where we spend a lot of time in our teams. We have regional managers that then lead store managers, and a big part of that is focused on developing managers into leaders so that they can lead their people. We start out every day. You might find this interesting, what we call a huddle. And our huddle is centered, and you've probably heard this before, but our victories from the day before, our priorities for today, and our stocks. And when we start those meetings out, there's such a collaborative effort towards recognizing the victories, helping the person with the stock, and encourage them to focus on their priorities.
Mm-hmm.
That's where great leadership comes in.
Yeah, I would totally agree. There is a vast canyon in between being a manager and being a leader, and not often enough do we help to build that bridge to help that person get over that canyon. And I was very lucky in my career. I've said this 100 times that I had some great mentors as I was coming up through here. Other than being a few credits short of an associate's degree in management, I have no management training except for on the job. And I was very, very lucky that I had 3 mentors who taught me everything that I needed to be able to actually lead people. And that's missing from a lot of people. You're taking your best advisor and you're moving them up into the seat when the seat's empty, right? And they're great. They're great with people, but they have no idea how to actually lead a team. Sometimes they don't even know how to manage a department.
Yeah,
They understand the role. Yeah, they understand the role from their perspective of an advisor, but they don't understand the bigger role when you become a manager of what you have to look at and what you have to look out for, and that team is now reliant on you for their income, and that's a big responsibility.
I believe this wholeheartedly, that successful organizations, they are constantly trying to reinvent themselves through the implementation of structured developmental programs. So they put a structure together so that they can evolve their leadership skills, so they can develop their teams. I guess there's an old saying that you train a dog, right? But you develop people. And so sometimes we get caught up in that person should know their job. Well, they may know their job, but they may not know how to properly implement that job.
Right.
And I
Absolutely.
think that's a really important part.
Yeah, there's absolutely no doubt. It's I always say that we manage expenses and we lead people. Same as your dog analogy there. It's something that that I'll use the word frustrates me in this industry. And one of the reasons that I do this podcast and do my Tuesday night membership meetings is because I want more people to be able to get access to learning things that they need to enhance their skills, to better themselves, better their lives, better the lives of their teams, when that training is just woefully non-existent in the dealership world. The OEMs are really great at putting out trainings for salespeople and for general sales managers and for service advisors, and obviously technicians have a ton of technical training. And the guy who's sitting in the middle of that circle trying to lead those people gets no training at all.
Yeah, there's there's this big apprehension that is related to what can only be considered as soft skills, right? These are soft skills and soft elements of leadership. So the complexity of that leadership is really producing a paradoxical message. You should know this, but yet we aren't going to teach you how to do it more effectively.
Right.
I think that's a conflict. And, often when I'm talking to a dealer, I'm no longer in that environment, but I do talk to a lot of dealers and GMs. And as I do on my downtime or my late evenings and weekends, the discussion is, how do I get more? How do I get more? How do I get more? And that's natural, right, Dave? That's the natural intention. And the way you get more is to stop and look for the things that are going well. Inspire your team by just taking time, right? And saying, Dave, I noticed today that you greeted that client in the service drive by their first name and you gave them a water right away. It wasn't about relational, let's sell something. It was about that relation with the client. We take time to acknowledge that in front of other people. That's empowering, right? It lifts the entire body around that person up.
Yeah. And when it's somebody that's new to your organization, or if you are new to that organization, it's like revolutionary to them. I mean, most of them look at you like, and what's the bad part of this? Like they're so not used to getting a compliment and saying, hey, great job on that. Just simple 2 words, great job.
Right. And I think a lot of managers feel that's a soft skill. I need to whip that person when they're not performing to my expectation. That's what a manager does.
Yeah.
And the reality is, the people, you probably know this study off the top of your head, but I think the science says that employees don't quit their jobs because of anything else. They quit their job because of the boss, right?
Yeah.
They quit their job because they don't like the environment. So for me, I believe that the leader's intention is way more important than any other responsibility they have. Mm-hmm. Their intention that they bring every day, and we'll spend a little bit of time talking about what I identify as forward-thinking leaders, but that intention that they bring into their day matters. So I'll give you an example. I was talking to a general manager who worked, I think, 17 hours, and he's on his 6th day. What do you think his attitude was first thing Saturday morning?
Probably not that good.
Yeah, not that great, right? And I said, the first thing you need to do is pause, right? And think about the energy you're bringing to your team. If you're going to come in worn out, stressed out, overworked, overwhelmed, that's what you're going to give the team, right? And I think more times than not, we get caught up in that. You ever read the book, The 4 Disciplines of Execution?
Yes.
They talk about the whirlwind, right? And the whirlwind dominates the day. So we never really get to the activities that bring together a collaborative team. It's just the whirlwind. We just exist. And if the whirlwind's really good, man, there's a lot of revenue. Right? But it doesn't mean the team is successful. It's just a lot of whirlwind. There's a lot happening.
Right.
And I find that really fascinating.
Yeah, it's very true. And you talk about the energy that you walk in with. I mean, you can walk in with a very low state of energy, and the team is going to feel that. Well, whether you say anything to them or not, they feel that, they pick up on that, and they mirror that back to you, which then starts to create that whirlwind of in the wrong way. The whirlwind spinning the other way, where things aren't going to go well that day, but because that's the energy that you brought to them.
Right. It matters how the intention is deployed, right? How contagious is it? How effective is that energy, and how it shifts from one person to the next? Because as you said, that shift, watch out for Dave today, man. He's in one of those moods. Or, hey, you need to go see Dave today, man. He is fired up. You need to go see him. That's
Yep.
a different energy depletion, right? That's how you deploy your intention. It's really,
Absolutely.
really effective.
Yeah. I am known in every store that I work at for the guy. When you ask me how I am, I always answer I couldn't be better. And I've been called a liar 100 times with that answer. But I will defend that position every single time. As for where I am at this second in my life, I couldn't be better. Now, if you move me to a beach in Fiji, I'm still going to tell you I couldn't be better, and I'd be right again.
Right.
And it's all about what we make of it, right? If you want it to be a miserable place, then it'll be a miserable place, no matter where you are, whether you're on a beach in Fiji or the dealership shop, it'll be miserable. So Joe, you just
why do teams disconnect, right, Dave? Why is there that tension or that apprehension or that I really don't want to belong to this team anymore? And it really stems from the leader. The old quote is that the speed of the leader is the speed of the team, right?
Yes.
So if that leader comes in and they make everybody else more focused on revenue, sell, create more, that environment is not conducive to teamwork, to an environment. Right. And some of the best leaders in the country that run huge automotive environments, they're about that environment, teamwork, team, leadership. So it's really, really important. And again, it's probably why a lot of stores fail, right? That's why they struggle. And to your point, they fire their head coach. They fire him. And then the next guy comes in and they can't bring that team together, and so they fire him. So
yeah,
there is a disconnect there. And you and I have debated that or discussed that on LinkedIn many times. So I think we're a like-minded person in that regard.
Yeah, and I will tell you that the store that I'm at now has in the past 5 years had 13 different service directors.
Wow.
Over 5 years. And I listened to some people who have been there through those 5 years, and there were many of those directors that were saying, or other people that are at the store that were saying, the technicians are the problem here. You got to get rid of the technicians, or you're never going to be able to keep a director here. You got to change the techs. You got to change the techs. You got to change the techs. I've been there almost 10 months, and did we make some changes in the techs? Yes, about a third are different. So 2/3 are still the same techs. And that store is up 41% in gross profit in those 10 months with the same techs. And we started with 18. We now have 14, and we're up 41% in gross profit because it was never the techs. The techs were just the guys that were getting beat down.
Sure.
The director after director would do a new program and do this different and do this different. And, it's you mentioned a little while ago about forward-thinking leaders. And I'd like to hear a little bit more of your take on that.
Yeah, I think you've read some of my posts, and for those that haven't, I generally create 5 specific tasks that I think when you're reading an article or you're reading a post, you should have actionable items, right? So I identified this as these are 6 ways to identify a forward-thinking leader. I put this list together because I'm actually in the process of writing an article on it, but I put it together because I think it's so impactful for leaders to understand that there's more, right? For managers to understand that there's training out there that they can understand. But I think as a general manager, as a service director, an fixed operations leader, you have to identify leaders within your own group, right? You have to identify the key people that are going to drive the results that you want or the activities that produce the results. So I'll break this down in the only way I know how, so I hope you bear with me, but I identified 6 forward-thinking leadership skills. How do you identify them? Number 1, this is really important. Forward-thinking leaders know what they want. They have clarity and why. And when they devise that why, they know how to devise a game plan that helps them accomplish the goal, similar to what you did, right? You had a why, And then you said, I have the right plan. I know what I want. And you created a 41% growth. That's identifying a forward-thinking leader. They pull the team in the direction of the activities that produce the results. Well, you and I talked about that a little bit earlier, right? They pull the team. Dave, I'll ask you a question. If you're standing at the end of a cliff, do you want to be pushed or do you want to be pulled?
I'd rather be pulled.
Yeah, results are in a direct proportion for that pulling. Are we pulling our teams towards an objective? I think that's really important to identifying a forward-thinking leader. Number 3, they're willing to take more calculated risks, right? As a leader, you understand that failure is a prerequisite. If you're going to achieve any kind of results, you've got to take more risks, and you got to be willing to make mistakes. That, to me, is really identifying a key leadership skill. And when you do that, you do it together, right? It's not me, let me tell you how I'm going to do it. It's let's do this. Let's go after this objective, right? Number 4, they are inspiring, contagious, and that positive energy just elevates other people, right? You just can't help but to be lifted around that right, inspiring leader. They don't have to be this all-inspiring, speech-giving person. They just have to exude the right amount of energy because it is contagious, right? They challenge others. Pull the rope with me, Dave. Pull the rope with me. And when we finally get there to the precipice, we'll all celebrate. One of my favorite quotes, I wrote this down and I really want to read it because Anise Kavanaugh said, leaders understand they catch and spread what it is they are committed to. Isn't that phenomenal? She said, listen, you catch it, but you also spread it, good or bad, right? Anise Kavanaugh wrote that. She's just a phenomenal author. So if you haven't read her books, Contagious You is just a phenomenal book.
That's awesome.
Number 5, they feel guilty when success eludes them. I believe this. I believe when you hire the right person, they feel a sense of guilt. Good leaders bear a strong connection between performance and achievement. It's an essential indicator that you have the right person on the bus. Leaders take responsibility, but they feel bad when things don't go well. They don't point to Dave, this is your fault. Dave, why didn't you do, right? They take accountability, but they feel a sense of guilt. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. I think that's I think that's probably one of the hardest things to learn as a leader.
It is definitely a skill, but it's innate in somebody. You either have that and you're a part of that, that desire, that competitive spirit, or you don't.
Yep.
And my bonus one is a phrase that I absolutely love. It's called, the acronym is ANT, ANT, and it's simply known as auto negative thinking. Let me explain what I mean by that. Effective leaders manage that internal conversation. The thing that drains attention and focus and your energy, they proactively manage it. Remember we talked earlier, coming in with intention? That's managing your auto-negative thinking. Right. Those are what I feel are the 6 keys to really identifying the forward-thinking leader. And I'll end, you may have a point or two, but I want to end on this. High-performance, growth-minded organizations, they experience success and sustainability because the cornerstone of their success is development of their leadership.
Yes. Yeah, it's the auto negative thinking you were just talking about is I mean, as human beings, that is your default mode, right? Is the negative thinking. It's from thousands or millions of years of evolution that helped keep us alive, and it's not going away. But you do need to know how to manage that and how to keep yourself out of that. And not as you said, you need to manage your auto negative thoughts, and keep your head out of that and stay on the positive side of things.
Yeah, it's a real positive thing that you can manage effectively, right? By being awareness. I think there's cognitive approach, right, that neuroscience calls neuroplasticity. The more awareness that you have, the more cognitive you are to it. That's managing that auto negative thinking.
Yeah, absolutely. Great stuff, Joe. Great stuff. So if people want to find you, what's the best place to get a hold of you?
Yeah, the best place is through LinkedIn. It's Joseph Clementi. You just go in the search and search out my name. It's Clementi. I do post often. I'm an advocate of coaching and mentoring and learning, and I'm very active on giving and providing to people what I think are the essential skills. It's all in the servant nature. It's not a money thing. It's not an opportunity to sell my wares. It's really a way to give back. And you mentioned it earlier. You had mentors and coaches, right, who said, "Hey, I'm there for you. Let me give you a helping hand." And hopefully those folks that read what we post, they get value out of it.
Yeah, that would be the hope, because I'm certainly not putting it up there. I'm not putting it up there to make millions of dollars, and I'm not putting it up there for myself. I'm putting it up there in the hopes that somebody does look at it and takes a piece of it and can either level up their own skills or help level up somebody else's skills. Because in the end, that's what it's all about, right? The more we can give out, the more we can get back.
Yeah, absolutely. The more that you allow yourself to be influenced and mentored, the more you can help others be influenced and mentored. Absolutely.
Well, Joseph, this was an awesome conversation, and I know people are going to get some great leadership takeaways from this. Is it mobilityworks.com? Is that the right website? Okay.
Mobilityworks.com. That's correct. Yep.
All right. Excellent. So anybody listening that has any need for mobility help, you got to look Joseph up, and he will make sure that you are well taken care of. Joe, I will link all that up in the show notes. And once again, thank you for joining us on the Fixed Ops Mastermind podcast. This is an awesome conversation filled with a ton of leadership value.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a great pleasure of mine. And man, I had a blast. Thank you for having me, Dave.
Absolutely. It was a good time. Another information-packed session of the Fixed Ops Mastermind podcast is in the books. Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate your support. Remember to download Fixed Ops Mastermind podcast on your favorite podcast app and to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. We thank again our sponsors, Dynatron Software and Traver Connect. Make sure you guys visit them. They've got some incredible products to help your dealership excel. Until next time, thanks for joining us.